avoid that for 20 years. Do you see? Why did it
Yeah.
take so long? Next time I don't have to.
Yes, my avoidance, and I know mine was to avoid pain. And my avoidance of the pain for 20 years was a million times worse than just going through the unpacking.
Was the cause of a lot of pain. Whereas,
Exactly.
whereas unpacking it doesn't cause pain.
No.
Unpacking pain causes success and freedom and pleasure.
Yes, and I can see that completely. I've experienced that as
Hanging
we talk
on to
about.
pain increases it.
Yes. Yes. And we talk about every time we talk about experiencing it, right? Not taking your word for it, experiencing it. And that's what I experienced. I can remember coming to that realization and actually starting to, like, I actually laughed. I was like, that's what this was? Like, this whole time I was trying to hide and escape and not face it. And in the end, it was what was keeping me stuck and holding me back from the things that I wanted.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we could go on for hours about dreams, I'm sure. But so let's go back to our topic about what pets teach us about life. We've kind of went several different directions with that today. And I guess the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because for myself, I think I don't know. There's been my pretty much my whole life I've always had a pet. I've since I was young, I've always loved animals. I've always um you know required that in my life, really, to have that type of companionship. And what I really wanted to just mention or talk about today was that how how much we can learn, how much our pets show us every day if we're present enough to be with them and see what they're showing us.
Yeah.
There's been times where I've had pets and I walk in and out of the door and I didn't even acknowledge them or stop to pet them,
Yeah.
and I look back on that now and no, that's not how I want to interact with my pets. But that those short, quick interactions when you're able to do that with your pet, there's that feeling inside that's like there's nothing better than when I get home and my dog is turning in
Well,
circles and wagging his tail.
that's another point. Even though you may have disregarded them on their way out, they will just treat you with the greatest joy and pleasure. When you come back, they don't hold a grudge.
Right. I know. And I watched my dog do that. I remember the first time that I don't know, maybe I was, whatever. I brushed him off. I was tired, whatever. Come back into the room and he's greeting me like he's just seen me for the first time in a month. And I remember experiencing that and being just like, wow, there's these examples right in front of me that I'm not taking full advantage of, I guess is how it felt when I first started seeing this with my own dog.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about them not holding a grudge, that is similar to what I was talking about before, that they live in the present. Right? They don't hold on to negativity.
Yes.
Humans, there are a lot of humans who make it their life task to collect negative experiences, hold on to them, and share them with
Yes.
others. They
Yes.
want others to feel the negativity too.
Yeah. And you're
Animals
exactly
don't do
right.
that. Animals don't do that.
No, they don't. And, I had an experience with my cat. His name is Mitch, and he, again, is the most laid back cat ever. And he rarely ever does anything bad. But one time he did. He was tearing up something or something. And I kind of raised my voice at him and I was like, Mitch, stop. And I got kind of mad because I thought he was going to shred whatever it was and I wanted it. And he did something so disarming. He just sat down and looked at me. He didn't run
Yes.
off. He didn't, recoil or anything. He just sat down and looked at me. And I remember I was so caught off guard, and it was very disarming. I was like, wow. Again, another example of a pet just not, showing you a different way. And I've never, ever, ever raised my voice, even at my dog. I don't, rarely, if ever, because he doesn't, but I've never, that really changed my view once he did that. That was like an experience I had that felt really different with an
So
animal.
if a person were to do something negative to you, and if it's appropriate, you were to, excuse me, sit down and just look at the person instead of fighting them. Right?
Right.
Stand or sit there and just look at them.
Right.
How disarming that would be.
I
So
know.
you learned a valuable lesson
I
from this.
did. I
Yeah.
did. Yeah. And I feel the same with my dog. Every day I'm learning those kinds of things. And so anyway, I just wanted to talk about that today. It's a fun topic. Hopefully the listeners maybe start to look at their pets in a different way, start to see the lessons that the pets, and that could be any pet. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dog or a cat. It can be any pet, any pet that you have.
Yeah. I mean, fish are somewhat less easy to read than
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I will give any sort of, any fish, anything like that. But yeah, it's pets are amazing, and I thought it would be a fun topic for today.
Yeah. Yet I've seen videos of sharks cuddling with people.
Yeah, and when they're in the people will be in the cage and the shark will come up, or even like you see the dolphins or like the really big, I'm not sure, whales of some type, and they're playing ball back and forth in the boats and stuff. Like those kinds of things are, you see those things and it's just the amazement of what animals do and how they interact with humans.
Now, another thing with animals, mostly they're honest.
Yeah.
I say mostly because my dogs, like I have a little dog, a schnauzer, she lies sometimes. She lies. But it's mostly about food that she hasn't been fed.
I have one
Not,
like that.
she's never fed enough, but she also comes up with, "You didn't feed me." And she has that, because I know that, because she has that look with her that stares at me, that signals, now is time to feed me. And I can feed her, and she'll wolf it down, and half an hour later comes with that same look, sits in front of me, stares at me, now is time to feed me, which implies you didn't feed me before.
Right.
But otherwise, like my German Shepherd, the German Shepherd doesn't, the male, he's like almost 3 years old. He doesn't know how to lie. He doesn't even know the concept.
Yeah.
But that's also because males are a little bit less subtle about a lot of things. you know.
Yeah. My
At
dog does
least I can
this.
say that about him.
My dog does this thing with his food that I call the sniff and stare, because he'll sniff the food and then he'll stare into space as if, why did you give me this? Right.
Yeah,
And he
sounds
wants
good.
something on it, either these treats I have, just, little toppers, or, whatever it is. And it's an interesting thing when your dog becomes, well, I call him a little man diva, because he'll play these games with his food. And for a while I played the game. I didn't know. I thought, well, I was just supposed to do this, or, as I was getting to learn him. And now I've realized his games with food. And so it was really hard for me just to walk away and leave it. And if he was hungry, he would eat it. And that was really hard for me at first, because, I'm like, well, it's food. Aren't you hungry? You've eaten this before. Why is today any different? But I've noticed he plays games in that way, and I have to learn not to play back.
So the conclusion is they will manipulate you if you let them.
Yes. And I had to stop, put a stop to that. But when they're so cute, it's hard.
What?
I said, when they're so cute, it's hard. I just, feel like I
Yeah.
want to play the game.
Well, also, if you want to be manipulated, you let them.
Well,
Let them
very
do
good
it.
point. Very good point. Oh, yes. My guest this week has been Dr. Erhard Vogel, author of many books, and the most recent book is A Dialogue with Death, the Teacher of Life, an Ancient Story for the Modern World. So, Erhard, do you have any closing thoughts today on the topic of what our pets can teach us about life?
Relationship.
Yeah.
They are the best relationship partners. And if you learn from them and become a relationship partner like they are, you'll have wonderful, loving, joyous, blissful relationships.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what they teach us.
Yeah. And what my biggest lesson from my dog is the living in the moment and seeing him just always happy and
Yeah.
how much joy he brings to other people with his happiness.
And if he has pain, he gets over it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
My German Shepherd had his stomach turned over, which is
Mm.
very unusual for a young dog,
Mm-hmm.
but is not unusual for a large dog or
Okay.
a horse or something like that. And what happens then when the stomach twists over, it shuts off the blood supply to the liver and the
Mm.
pancreas and other organs, and kidneys especially. And that happened to him to some degree, and he was in the hospital for 11 days,
Oh, wow.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
Even though the stomach was returned to its original position in the first day at the vet. But because of the kidneys, he had to stay because his count was quite wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing was, I would go and visit him, and you could see that this was a special occasion for him. He was very, very happy and very sweet and loving and so on. And then when the vet came or the assistant came to pick him up, he didn't want to go, but he
Yeah.
went because he does what he needs to do,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, but the relationship was so sweet and so strong with him and so trusting. He trusted me
Yeah.
that I would come back, that this situation that he had been 11 days is an eternity for a dog, especially when he doesn't know when if he's going to ever get picked up again.
Right.
Apparently he trusted, and he was so peaceful and calm once he was home, in spite of the fact that he had a lot of pains,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they cope with things because they focus on, their life is focused on what is the important thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I exist right now and that I'm with the environment and the person that I love. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. I live that. I enjoy that. I can be lying down because I'm so weak, but I'm not too weak to not wag my tail.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll wag their tail when you come by, even though they're in pain and they're weak. Yeah.
I have the same experience with my dog with the trust because I take him, every so many weeks to get his nails trimmed. And I don't like to do it myself. So I take him in to get that done. And the assistants there at the veterinary office fight over who gets to hold him because they all love him so much because he's so calm when he goes in
Uh-huh.
there. And he'll put his paw, she says he'll just put his paw on her hand and just wait for her to trim his nails. But it's a
Oh,
very similar thing because he trusts that that I'm gonna be there for him. He knows I'm
yeah.
gonna come back.
And actually, they are not being difficult or something. That's a very frightening situation. Have you
Hmm.
noticed they don't even like to have their paw held?
Yeah, my
Oh,
brother's dog is like that. He
yeah,
will
they
not.
don't,
Yeah.
because that impinges their freedom to run away if there's danger or so,
Hmm. Hmm.
impinges upon that freedom. And so for him to put his paw in the person's hand is the ultimate sign of trust.
Yeah.
So he said, so they do remember, they live in the moment, but they remember from the past. I did this before, I was afraid, but it turned out to be okay, so I shouldn't keep on being afraid. And that's a lesson to
That
learn.
is. Yeah.
Because human beings, they hold on to their pain and add to it and more and more and more and repeat it and think it and feel it over and over again when the cause of pain is long gone.
I totally agree. I mean, there's just so many lessons from our pets, and again, if we're willing to slow down enough and pay attention and listen, I think it's pets are amazing. And I want to thank you, Erhard, for joining us and for talking about pets.
Okay. Well, you have different ideas, Sloan.
Try to keep everybody guessing.
Yes. Well, it's been a pleasure to talk with you again.
You as well. And you've been listening to the Create What You Speak podcast, brought